Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Now, yes, it is Thursday, and yes, this is a review, but this isn't a theater throwback. Oh, no, no, no. This is an opening night review. Just a little tiny Marvel movie came out tonight, and ooh, did Brie Larson show up in all her glowing beauty. I think you guys might know what I'm talking about. I don't want to waste no time, so why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler free on Captain Marvel. Now, you're gonna have to bear with me on this one. Typically I watch a movie, and lately I've had a day or so before I actually sit down to review it. I don't want to waste no time reviewing this one, but I'm still kind of gathering my thoughts. It threw a lot at me, and a lot of it is really, really good. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought Brie Larson was fantastic. I could watch her and Sam L. Jackson on screen together literally all day long. Goose the cat is phenomenal, and the visual effects are stunning. However, I was a little bit disappointed. The antagonist end of this movie feels a lot more like Phase 1 Marvel. The story in this movie feels a lot more like Phase 1 Marvel. This movie is very much a traditional origin story. Now, that has nothing to do with the movie being good or bad, but just that my expectations were like all the way up here. Like, you can't even see where my hand is. It's way up there. I have like an extender arm, and it's way, way up there. And that's because, you heard Kevin Feige talk and lament about his regret in not doing the first female superhero movie. And that just told me, the way Kevin Feige operates and the way Marvel operates, that this movie should have blown Wonder Woman out of the water. For me personally, I don't think it's quite there. This movie is missing a little something. And it might be the fact that it takes Captain Marvel a little bit longer than I expected for her to show up. And then when she shows up, it's like a Thanos snap, man. It is quick. Because God, is she powerful. And I think this is probably a worry that a lot of Marvel fans have had, was, are they gonna power her up too much? For this movie, when she finally kicks into gear, it is not even remotely close. And that discrepancy between her and, the villains in this movie, I think lets the end fall a little bit flatter than you'd like. It's certainly visually stunning to watch. And as it all kind of takes shape, you're getting excited because you know it's gonna happen. But the fights are over real quick. I'm not going to lie to you. I know it's a non-spoiler, and maybe that is a bit of a spoiler, but I mean, she is so much more powerful than everybody in this movie, and probably everybody outside of maybe Scarlet Witch that we've seen in the MCU. If I'm Thanos, I'm shivering, man. I am quaking. I'm freaked out if I'm Thanos. That's what it gets down to. I would be real scared, I mean, Thor could have ended that dude, and I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel can make short work of Thor. So because of that, it kind of fell a little short of my expectations personally. However, I thoroughly did enjoy the movie. And it's a solid origin story. We're just at a point in time where it's like, it's really hard with Endgame less than 2 months away, about a month and a change from Endgame. It's hard to want to dive into an origin movie, and this really follows the typical Marvel structure of an origin story. You slowly kind of see her building all the way up to what she's going to become. Now, because of that, I think that Captain Marvel 2 could be massively epic, especially if it follows where this movie is kind of leading it toward the end. As far as the Skrull-Kree War, I think everyone, if you're a comic fan and you know the comics, you know that she's involved in that, and the fact that she hasn't been on Earth for a long period of time is probably because that's what she's dealing with. I think the sequel to this movie is going to have to go backwards. Because if you go back to that could be a lot of fun to watch. They certainly set up a lot of nice things, and goodness me, the actors that could be involved in that movie are a lot of fun. And speaking of the actors, man, let's just dive in to the characters, right? Brie Larson as Carol Danvers Veer's Captain Marvel. Fantastic. I really thoroughly enjoyed her. I'm not gonna say there's something off, but she does certainly feel alien in the movie. And it's because she's out of touch with her human, self until the amnesia stuff gets cleared up toward the back half of this movie, and she becomes boom Captain Marvel. But she, the trailers didn't seem like she was having too much fun until the last few that we saw. She certainly puts the fun into this movie. I enjoyed her character. Watching her interact with Sam L. Jackson, goodness me, I could do that all day long. Their chemistry is really what makes this movie work. They are a wonderful pairing. And the humor, oh my gosh, man, there is so much good humor in this movie. I wasn't expecting a lot of humor, but there is a good amount of it, and it all works, man. The crowd I was with, you're talking about clapping and cheering and laughing throughout the entire film, as one would expect. And that has a lot to do with Brie Larson, I just think, nailing the role. She makes you buy into her as this character. And I do think there's room for growth. I think she can get even better, especially now that she kind of has fully embraced who she is and knows, what she needs to know. But she's rock solid in this movie and just looks phenomenal the whole time. The minute she gets the red and blue and how she gets to the red and blue, oh, spectacular. And now, as I said, Nick Fury in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson, awesome. I love Sam L. Now, I won't lie, he doesn't have, he's in the movie a lot, but he doesn't necessarily do a lot in this movie. He kind of is, the sidekick to Captain Marvel, and it just allows for a lot of good banter, and like I said, their chemistry is just so entertaining. I love watching these two on screen. Now, obviously, we're dealing with a younger Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm going to tell you, I've heard a lot of people mention the de-aging, that Marvel has at their disposal, and that how it was used here. I've said it from day one. I think they just simply put a wig on Samuel L. Jackson, and they shaved his goatee. I don't think there's too much de-aging on Samuel L. Jackson, because there is de-aging on Clark Gregg, and it's noticeable. It kind of has more of that look like young Tony, you could tell something was off, and it looks really, really good, but you can tell that they definitely de-aged Clark a lot. Sam looks like Sam. I just think that man is naturally youthful. Kind of like the Seaman. If I shaved my beard, you would think I was 18 years old. I swear to God. But de-aging aside, I loved Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. He makes you laugh. He makes you smile. I was grinning ear to ear most of this movie. And the build-up and how we get to One-Eyed Nick Fury, excellent. Which brings me to Ben Mendelsohn, who plays Talos, the Skrull kind of leader in this movie. And, oh man, I love Ben Mendelsohn. And, unfortunately, I feel like he's kind of fallen into a trope recently where a lot of his roles feel very similar. He had so much fun with this. With the shape-shifting and all that stuff, he throws a couple different accents in there, and his Skrull accent is so fantastic. And the tweaks that he does to his voice, and you can tell that he's playing around this whole movie. He's having a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed him. And I enjoyed the Skrulls in this movie in general. They don't waste any time in letting you see how the shape-shifting takes place. Obviously after we saw concept art, and then we saw in the trailers kind of the fact that it is prosthetic and makeup, you were kind of, I just need to see them transform, and man, is it cool. Like I said, the visual effects in this movie are stunning. And Mendelsohn, he plays his role so well. And as a Skrull should, he walks both sides of the line really, really well. As does Jude Law playing Jan Rog. Not in the movie as much as I expected him to be in the movie, but I'm a big Jude Law fan, and he's solid. But where his storyline goes, again, kind of falls into a little light on where that ends up. But I didn't enjoy Jude Law's performance, and I enjoyed pretty much everybody in this. Annette Bening, she's got a small role, but same thing. There's a lot of duality to a lot of these characters. Almost all the characters in the movie, there is a duality to. And Annette Bening, when she's playing on one side of her duality, you can tell how much fun she's having, and oh man, she has a grin at one point in this movie where you're just like, Oh, I love me some Annette Bening, and she's having a ton of fun. And it felt like everybody was having fun. Speaking of which, newcomer, at least to me, I'm not familiar with Lashana Lynch, who plays Maria Rambo. Really enjoyed her little bit. Again, small role, but gets a couple nice moments in there. I liked her relationship with Carol. She's kind of one of her Air Force buddies. And her daughter, who is played by Akira Akbar. Oh my gosh, so adorable. I just love that storyline a lot. Now, as far as the Kree go, right, we mentioned Jude Law. I love that we get to see Jaimin Hansu right away in this movie. And again, though, and same with Lee Pace. It takes a little longer to see him, but both of them very, very small roles. And, I mean, I guess this is a minor spoiler. Lee Pace doesn't have the war eye paint on that, Ronan had in the Guardians movies. And holy cow, for a hot minute, I thought it was a different actor. It's crazy what that eye paint does. Gemma Chan, who plays Minerva, very nice. But again, super minimal in her role. I would have liked to have seen her on screen a little bit more. She's one of the more striking Kree in the movie, and I felt like you could have had some interesting stuff, especially between her and Captain Marvel, where things kind of, they had like an interaction at one point in the movie. It was like, I wish I could have seen these two on screen a little bit more. But what we do get from Gemma Chan was very nice. Always love seeing Clark Gregg, and so nice to see Clark Gregg back on the big screen. I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. Again, very small, but where he pops in, very nice. But overall, man, I thought the acting was really solid, and I enjoyed the performances. The other thing that this movie does is this movie is pretty relevant, right? Again, it's hard to talk about things without spoiling, but there is certainly subject matter that you can connect to today that is very relevant with things that are going on right here in the United States. And I appreciated that, and that story enters a twist that sort of baffled me. And without giving anything away, it kind of puts a wrench in one of my theories for what comes after Endgame. And at first I was kind of like, oh man, because I don't like being wrong. But it could still go the way I think. It just might take a little bit longer to get there. And considering how Feige likes to play the long game, and he likes to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of where people's brains are, it could be a misdirect. It could still be a story that could evolve into the next big storyline for Marvel. But when you watch the movie, you're going to go, oh. But it works. Inside the context of the movie, it works really well, and I liked where it went. Now, there's also the strong female presence side of this movie, and I think this movie it's right there with some of the other female superheroes that we've seen. Right, Wonder Woman. I guess Alita isn't really a superhero per se, but in Alita, Captain Marvel falls right in there. I think this is a wonderful example for little girls. I think little girls will gravitate, to Captain Marvel. Heck, grown women will gravitate towards Captain Marvel. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I think is very poignant. And it's what I thought was nice is that it wasn't just specifically towards women. There certainly is a line there. When you get some of the Air Force stuff, you kind of see, especially back in the 90s, they kind of reference the way that kind of women were held back from certain things. But the general message is very human in the sense of, you always get up. And Captain Marvel does that so stupendously. There's a sequence, much like the trailers, where we kind of see some things with her doing that. And when it hits, you're like, yeah, let's go. Come on. So I like that. I thought that stuff worked, and and the stuff that's not superhero or comic related per se, but can relate to what's going on now in the world. I thought the movie worked very nicely in there, and I don't think it's too feministy in your face type of stuff. But it does send a strong female, gives a strong female lead, and sends a strong female message that I think worked quite well in the movie. As a man, I didn't have any issue with the movie whatsoever, and I thought those points were executed well and played well in the film, and it doesn't trope anything. You watch this movie and you feel like you're in a Marvel movie start to finish. And before I forget, there is one other character in there, goes by the name of Goose. Oh my gosh, this cat in this movie is just so freaking adorable, and is used so well, and the relationship the cat has with Sam L. Jackson, Mr. Mother Effer. Oh man, it's a side of Sam that we haven't seen in a movie in quite some time, and I love the interactions and the twist that also is involved with the cat and where he ends up. And of course, this is a Marvel movie, and despite the fact that he is gone, I'm going to try to do this without crying, The way they pay tribute to Stan in this movie, there's something at the beginning, and there's something cameo driven with him that just every time you see him, it just warms your heart. Like he's still here, even though he's not. So I absolutely loved that. I loved the outside the cameo. There's a really nice moment for Stan that I think all Marvel fans will they almost had me crying, man, like 30 seconds into this movie, but it's amazing. So Stan fans, you guys are gonna love how they utilize him in this film. And then, of course, there are some post-credit sequences. The post-credit at the end of the credits, isn't necessarily like thoroughly important. It does kind of connect a piece that was missing, within the entire structure of the MCU. It's one of those cute post-credits. But after the beautiful visual credit sequence is over, that post-credit, oh my goodness, man, I got the whole crowd got thoroughly excited, to the point where I was like, oh, love it. So, from a non-spoiler perspective, if I say anything else, I might spoil some things. But Captain Marvel's really solid. It's not, I don't think it's quite where I thought it was going to be, and without watching it a few more times and letting it soak in, I don't think I can really compare it fairly to its counterpart in Wonder Woman. But it did not blow it out of the water. We'll say that much. But very, very solid. I'd probably put it in the second tier of Marvel movies. I don't think it's up there with like Winter Soldier, Ragnarok, the original Iron Man, most of the Avengers movies, Black Panther. It's that tier below, like with Ant-Man, and the first Thor, the first Captain America, where you got really solid stuff, especially from the origin perspective. But this movie felt a little bit smaller than I thought it would feel like, considering that we're out in the galaxy. But I think where it leaves off and what it sets up for Captain Marvel, if we go backwards again and head into that Skrull-Kree war, I think the second addition to the Captain Marvel universe could be spectacular. There's certainly a lot of room for improvement and growth, and that just means really, really awesome things, because this movie's rock solid. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, lots of cheering, lots of applause. I was grinning ear to ear most of this movie. So I'm excited for where we're going. I can't wait to go watch this movie a few more times. I'm definitely going to see it at least twice, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know, man. You know me in comic book movies. I'm going to be there a bunch. And I think as this soaks in a little bit more, it'll move up in my rankings. But being that my expectations were all the way up here, it came in like about here, which is really, really good. So I thoroughly enjoyed Captain Marvel, but the question is, will you? Obviously, it's opening night. It just came out, so a smaller collection of people have seen it. So if you have seen the movie, let me know what you're thinking. Please keep it spoiler free, but tell me if you liked it, what parts you kind of liked, what chemistry, what characters and actors and performances you like the most. Leave all that down below. If you haven't seen Captain Marvel, is it on your list? Are you super excited? Has the Seaman enticed you if you weren't in already? Leave all that down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe and little bell so you can get alerts every time I make a new video. For the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, I'm the Seaman, and I'm signing off. Well. If you aren't still here, looking for something else to check out that's Seaman related, why don't you check out a video like this guy or this guy? And if you really want to help the Seaman out in year 2, hit that subscribe button and come join the Cinema Sit Down squad, kids. You know what to do. See ya.